Get started. Welcome back, everyone, and I'm sure uh, people will start joining back. This brings us to the last, but definitely still a very important session in day two of the IRMI Annual Conference. And it's a pleasure to have Geeta Nambiar here with us. So, Geeta is the head of grants administration at PHFI, and actually, sometime back, we heard Dr. Dureraj Prabhakaran talking about the grants office at PHFI, the wonderful work that is done, and Geeta's at the helm of that. So, welcome to you, Geeta, and over to you to chair this session.
Thank you, Dr. Savita, and thank you for inviting me to the IRMI conference and to chair this session. And a very good evening to everyone, and warm welcome to this today's session. I believe this is the last session on assessing research management requirements and capabilities for institutions. Today we have three speakers presenting their work. And before starting the presentation, so let me introduce you to them. So we have the first speaker, Mr. Godwin Fernandez from Sangat, Goa. He's currently the research group manager of the addictions research group at Sangat, and previously he has been working on implementation projects funded by NACO, and also on community-based model of care for men with drinking problems, and another project focused on examining feasibility of delivering tele-mental health services in primary care. He is a DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance Fellow, Research Management Fellow. So welcome, Mr. Godwin. And today he'll be presenting on the research management experiences and needs of researchers in India. The second speaker, we have Dr. Anand T. from Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, Chennai. A little bit about Dr. Anand. He has completed his PhD in India in stem cell biology and a postdoc from NIH USA. And he has also completed his MBA in clinical research management and a diploma in project management. Currently, he is managing the incubation center at the university. Today, he'll be presenting a case report for understanding and enhancing research management within multidisciplinary departments in the university. Today's last speaker would be Dr. Malini Pillai from National Center for Biological Sciences, Bangalore. She's currently the grants advisor at the Research Development Office at the Bangalore Life Sciences Cluster, with more than 6 years experience in the field of pre-award area of research management. Currently, she is responsible for curating and disseminating grant information, developing grant bids of varying complexities, ensuring compliance with the institutional and agency requirements, coordinating submission of grants to national and international sources, and organizing grantsmanship workshops. Today, she will be presenting on her comparative analysis of global funding databases and its adaptability in the Indian context. So a very warm welcome to all the three speakers, and I would request the IRMI team to play the videos, and I would request the audience to share their queries through the chat box. We can take it after the three videos. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Godwin Fernandez. I work as research manager for the Addiction Research Group at Sangat. Presently, I'm holding the IRMI Research Management Fellowship from India Alliance, and the work that I will be presenting was possible through the IRMI Research Management Grant. I have worked for 14 years in NGO administration, and this fellowship has helped me to strengthen my skills further in grant management. I'm very excited to present to you findings from a need assessment survey that I've conducted within Sangat and other 7 research organizations in India. We had three broad objectives for conducting the survey. Firstly, we wanted to understand experiences of researchers within India, especially their needs and expectations from research office and any informal support system that existed within their organization. This would lead us to understand gaps in the system and create a need-based support structure while setting up research office within the organization. Through this survey, we also made attempts to understand capacity building needs of researchers in research writing and management. We used a structured online questionnaire to collect information about experiences, challenges, and support system needs. RedCap was used as tool for data collection. We also conducted qualitative interviews with a sample from the larger pool. We used subjective sampling based on certain preset criteria like years of experience, age, etc. The survey was open to all staff from research organizations in India, and we had structured the survey questionnaire to cater to staff having grant writing and grant management experience. At the beginning, we collected very brief socio-demographic data, which included gender, age, designation, and years of experience. Then the participant was expected to select option based on experience. So if the participant had both grant writing and management experience, then they clicked the first option and accordingly set of questions followed. Those having only grant writing experience selected the second option and they responded to only grant writing questions. And same with those having only grant management experience. Those who didn't have any relevant experience were given the option to click none, and the survey ended for them with a general question asking for their suggestion to improve research management practices. I wanted to highlight that this survey was conducted during the time of COVID-19, and so a conscious effort was made to keep this survey brief. 103 participated in the survey, out of which 75% were females and 23% were males. Most of the participants were mid or early career researchers. We also had senior researchers who had huge grant writing experience and administrators/managers who had grant management experience. We have highlighted few of the findings that we captured. 70% of the participants had more than 1 year of experience in research management. Highest years of experience that was reported was 20 years. We present our results based on descriptive analysis. I will talk about few of the findings now. More than half of the researchers reported that they engage in grant writing and management without any formal training, but have received mentor support, and only around 16% had informal training, which included in-house sessions and workshops on grant writing and management. These sessions are usually conducted by senior researchers and are project-based. 61% participants were early or mid-career researchers and had limited experience with regards to grant writing and management. Most of the researchers reported being supported by mentors. Comparatively, researchers find it easier to communicate with admin department than finance department in their organization. Here are some of the challenges that were reported by researchers, which are very important for us to develop and structure for research office. Researchers are interested to get involved in grant writing. However, they find it difficult to make time based on their existing research responsibilities. Some were of the opinion that there should be protected time policy in the organization to encourage researchers into grant writing. We took this up again in the interviews and understood that although most of them supported the idea of having protected time, they were not sure about how it can be implemented and monitored. Researchers find financial planning and budgeting a challenging process, and it is rated as more difficult than drafting proposals. As mentioned earlier, lack of relevant training and time are also reported as major challenges. It is important to understand the above findings in relation to the realities of functioning in a low resource setting. From our experience, we know that this may not be true for organizations in high income countries where research is more systematic. But on the flip side, researchers are really motivated, and here are some of the factors that help them. Researchers have pointed out that career progression is a strong motivator in writing and applying for grants. Many of them are motivated by lived experiences and grant topics. Young researchers are looking for opportunities to co-write grant applications along with experienced researchers within and outside their organization. Based on the data we collected through the survey and the interviews, we understand that early career researchers look for support from peers to review their grant application and provide feedback. Along with peers' support, they also look for mentoring. Researchers expect support to discuss their ideas and help them to convert into grant proposals. Most researchers pointed out that lack of opportunities for capacity building and recommended to develop targeted training programs. I will pause for 10 seconds and allow you to read the quotes from young researchers. Thank you for your attention. I hope this was helpful. I always look for feedback, and if you have any suggestion, questions, please feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you.
Hello everyone, myself Dr. Anand from Sri Ramchandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, Chennai. So first I would like to thank IRMI for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Here I like to present a short survey which is a case report for understanding and enhancing the research management facility within an interdisciplinary department in the university. As you all, this is the abstract which I submit for the IRMI Annual Conference 2022. As you all know, SRIAR is a well-known academic institute in India. It offers more than 250 academic and research in various disciplines, including medicine, allied health sciences, life sciences, pharmacy, management, engineering, sports medicine, and so on. So before initiating a research management office in the university, we would like to understand the current scenario and where are the pitfalls are there and are there within the university related to research and research management, and how further we can establish the research management facility in the university. For this, we formed a committee which consists of senior faculties from each department and came up with a set of questionnaire and circulated to the entire faculty in the university. So to our surprise, we have got a massive response from more than 50 entries within a week time. So based on this, we try to evaluate the real situation or the real scenario in the university. What is the current challenges which we are focusing on completion of the successful research project, and what could be done to develop done for the betterment of the successful research management office. For this, we formed a questionnaire which is consist of two categories. One is before funding, that is pre-funding, and after funding. So based on this, we had made the survey. First, initially, what we want to know, how many of them are actually interested in setting up a research management facility, and what could be the needs of those people who want to really engage with the research management officer. As you see in the first question, there are more than 25% of the reply came from biomedical science department as well as the life science department or allied health science department. And interestingly, in the second top position stands medicine department. This shows a lot of clinicians are interested in research and research management, and how this platform can help them in moving forward in research. And we wanted to know, really everyone is aware of funding opportunities available nationally and internationally too. So more than 50% are not aware of all the information related to the available opportunities. And also the people who knows are from only from the funding agency website. So this states that it's mandatory to have a repository or a directory for each and every available funds nationally and internationally. And this starting question itself made us to understand where we lack, uh, and next, as you all know, lot of documentation required for applying for funding, such as GST documents, bank details, and so many documents are there. But most of them told they are not the accessible time for this document is more than 2 weeks of times. So the research management office could be help in facilitating and getting the documents in timely needs for the PI, because the currently the PI are actually not aware of who's the right person to approach and what person are really needed for the for each funding agencies. So the next major area we focused on intra and interdepartment collaboration. The majority of the answer was sometimes, and this percentage came from a new faculty, those who are joined in last 5 years, not only in the collaboration, and actually most of them were not aware of all the available resources, infrastructure, instrument within the university. This is also a major lack in successful completion of research. This could be the best part of the research management office to facilitate the available infrastructure and the available facilities within the universities. Coming to the post-funding, the key challenges faced by the PI after the grant approval is getting the required document from the university within the short time given by the funding agencies. So this chart also clearly explains it takes almost 2 weeks, which is usually a deadline for each funding agencies given, and where this makes research management office act as a platform between the PI and the university to enhance and to facilitate the betterment of submitting the documents in actual time given. So we actually want to know and narrow down where are the real biggest bottleneck faced by the PA. This mainly revolves around the purchase and the account and the finance department. So we wanted to know further why there is a delay in this. So it's because each and every funding, each and every budget requires a special kind of based on the requirement of the PI. So this also research management can be take a research management office can be a part of this to reduce the workload by the purchase department or the finance department, where they can give an exact requirement by the PI. And finally, we wanted to know what kind of support does the PI needs. We got lot of responses from all of them, in which 4 or 5 are the specific reasons are said by the multiple people, like budgetary wise and overhead budgets, collaboration, research accountability, documentation, and so on. So these are the key area which we wanted to start initially with the research management office, and we want to initiate this for the successful establishment. Finally, to all this, to conclude by knowing that 96% of the people are required a grant management office within the universities to establishing a successful running of the research project within the university. And with this, I would like to once again thank IRMI for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And here are my contact details, and I'm open for question now. Thank you very much.
Hi all, hope you're enjoying the sessions and the talks. Today, I'll be talking about the global funding databases and its adaptability in the Indian context. The pre-award grant support is very critical for securing funding for sponsored research in a thriving research ecosystem. And one of the crucial roles of pre-award, it includes identifying the right funding resources as well as matching them with the relevant research programs at the institute. And hence, as research managers, I think it's very important to update ourselves of the different kinds of funding resources that are available globally. So, hence, today I wish to provide an overview of the different types of funding databases or the tools that are developed and used by research offices globally at different institutions and universities, and also would like to propose potential models of building such resources that could be for use in the Indian research ecosystem. I'm hopeful that this study may seed some discussions on how these models may be explored by the grants administrators in India to adapt, strategize, and also bolster the pre-award activities in higher education institutions within India. So this talk will cover the funding landscape in STEM fields of research, and I haven't covered other areas. So I would now proceed with the talk. So research funding is very crucial, and across the globe, a share of GDP is kept aside for the advancement of research and innovation. Of course, the amount of that share differs from country to country. And we see here that India is mapped at 0.7% of the GDP, though I think we are trying to boost it up. Now, recently in 2022, an article was published by Center for Civil Society, which is supported by Fast India and Manipal Foundation, that focused on the scenario of research funding in STEM field in higher higher education institutions in India. The study states that the researchers across the globe, they often face a dilemma of ambiguity about the inadequacy of funding for their projects. And in India, also we see that there has been an increase in the overall amount of research funding over the years, but it still continues to remain very, very insufficient for the kind of demand that we have. So, and most importantly, I would also like to highlight the point here that the study showed that the burden of funding, especially in the STEM areas of research for higher education institutions in India, is largely, the whole burden has come on the five basic funding agencies, which is the Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, SERB, CSIR, as well as ICMR. So in the study, they call it as the Big Five. So basically, this shows that there's an increasing need to look out for other pots of funding, and a deeper dive into such funding models is very, very essential. So in addition to the regular traditional mode of funding, which generally, like in the previous slide, we see that it's mostly from the Government of India funding, one needs to explore other schemes which are funded by private philanthropic funding sources, corporate sources, and also most importantly the international funding sources. So here I've tried to just show the different kinds of agencies that are out there that one can actually leverage the funding schemes from. Now, in recent guidelines published by the UGC in March 2022, which was a very crucial guideline for research managers, which was for establishment of research development cells in higher education institutions in India, there has been an emphasis on the creation of organizational structures that extends their guidance in preparation and submission of project proposals to secure research funding for sustained research output. The guideline actually emphasizes the role of research development offices in finding funding and facilitating greater access to research through mobilization of research resources as well as funding. So now it's kind of that the onus is on the research managers, Indian research managers, to actually look out for different kinds of funding in addition to the regular conventional traditional sources of funding. Now, where can one look out for this information on funding? So the usual routes or the usual approaches have been traditionally to talk to colleagues and mentors who've been previously successful in obtaining awards or fellowships and grants, and also all go through the different individual agency website and look out their call for proposals or the new deadlines that have come up. following them on the social media channels, and also subscribing to funding agency newsletters, and sometimes even attending presentations. A lot of webinars, especially during the pandemic, we've seen where the funding agency staff comes out and talks about the schemes that they have to offer. So these have been a very traditional approach, or different kinds of rules. I wouldn't call it traditional, but I think there's a need for more professional approach, which I think would be more useful with access to funding databases or funding scheme compilations. So coming to this, before I get into the global scenario, I just thought I would like to look at what are the existing types of funding databases that are already available in India. So from based on the kind of research that I did, I figured out that mostly we have institutional funding databases, then Government of India funding databases, as well as others. Now, very recently, we've seen that a lot of new research development offices are being built in different institutions in India, and institutions are realizing the importance of such central offices. And I also seen that a lot of databases they are curating for their own researchers which are coming up. So several institutions across India are coming up with funding databases that can actually match with the funding requirements. So these are a few of the examples that I've seen. So we at BLISC, we also have a funding database. We're in the process of revamping it, and we'll be launching a new funding database shortly, which would be an open access again. And then I've also seen that we've had from different institutions like IISc, IIT Palakkad, which have come up with schemes or databases with different kinds of schemes basing on their requirement of their researchers. But I think one of the disadvantages that I've seen with these institutional funding databases is that they are comprehensive, but not as comprehensive, and may not entirely suit to the requirement of a particular institutional or particular research that you're looking for. And also sometimes these are not always open access, and like I said, curated for researchers with a very specific remit. Now, there are also other resources, and to cite one of the most important one would be the resources that are developed by the India Bioscience. So basically in India Bioscience, we've seen compilations such as the grants page that they have, where they frequently update about the various schemes and calls that are open. And they have also come up with grants booklet for both early career as well as senior younger faculty for faculty booklets, where that can be used as references for funding that is available in the Indian context. So these are all currently resources that are being shared, and generally that are used by the Indian research managers as well as researchers to look out for funding. Now, recently, Government of India has come up with funding databases which are really becoming very, very useful. I think so. There are two different kinds of portals that I would like to highlight here. One is a regular funding agency portal. So recently, all the funding agencies have actually revamped their websites, and SERB is one that I would like to bring your attention to. So they have launched its SERB Prism portal, where it lists down a lot of schemes that these are all the schemes that SERB funds. And in addition to not just the information about the funding schemes, it also provides also information on the kind of projects that have been funded. So this could also be a very useful bit of information. Now, in addition to the funding agency portals, recently, Government of India has actually, the ST has come up with this new portal called the India Science, Technology and Innovation Portal, ISTI portal. So I would like to draw your attention to this particular portal. So this portal, it showcases more than 17,000 research projects, close to 1,500 funding opportunities. And also there is emphasis on innovations, and also it's going to be like a central repository for a lot of information for science and technology in India. Just to go over it. So basically ISTI portal, it's built to be a centralized repository of the content generated related to science, technology and innovation within the Indian science and technology ecosystem, with a significant thrust on reaching out to students, scientists, researchers, and also research managers. And the portal is quite user-friendly, and it is a repository of both ongoing as well as recently completed research projects. So if this is just a snapshot of the agency website. So if you see here, we see that a lot of like for example, these tabs here. So this is what I was referring to that. So here, all the research projects that are currently funded by GOI funding, they are listed here. You also get information on the different kinds of funding, which starts off from students till the faculty level. Then you also have information on the different kinds of science and technology organizations or institutions that are across India, different programs and schemes also covering innovation. Then fellowships and scholarships, again starting from studentships to faculty level fellowships, and of course also on the technology. In fact, there is also emphasis on academia industry partnerships. So the portal also provides insights and analytics of the information related to research technologies, innovations, and funding. And these analytics actually it helps the funding agencies to make informed decisions and formulate new schemes and programs and make decisions that is related to the project funding. Now, at the same time, researchers also can kind of study the trend in research funding. So this is going to be a single window open access source of information on funding opportunities for research in India. And it covers a lot of, or mostly it covers all of these funding opportunities, including individual, institutional, even as well as international and Indo-international research grants. ISTA portal is now being developed, and it is proposed to be like a foundation of the larger mission of STA Observatory, which would be a one-point data center as well as the face of scientific data in India. So this is something a very good web portal to visit, and it's going to be a good resource for funding in general. So that was about the scenario in the Indian context. Now, in the international funding databases, what I have seen is that the institutions outside of India, they leverage on these two different models of funding databases. One is from the external funding databases, and the other is the funding agency databases. So the external or private funding databases, there are different two types of databases that are available. You have subscription-based funding databases as well as open access funding databases. I would just like to go over a few important subscription-based funding databases. So these are databases that the institutions, they subscribe to, and so there most of these institutions, they especially in the US as well as in the Europe, they subscribe to these databases, which is like which gives information on all kinds of funding that is available. So these are mostly private resources which are again paid. Now, so a few of them are like, for example, Pivot, the research professional, as well as a Pivot RP, which is a recent addition to this. This actually unifies the above two databases, which is Pivot as well as research professional, to maximize the information on funding opportunities. So Pivot RP, I would also like to highlight that in addition to the funding opportunities that are available, it also has other features like it also has advanced research collaborations. So it basically increased funding matches and discoverability of potential collaborators with research profiles is possible using this particular database. And it also extends communication and outreach features, and also this also has tools that will help demonstrate the impact of research offices. Now, in addition to that, we also have other databases like the SPIN, which is again a very widely used database. It includes close to 40,000 research or funding opportunities across the globe. And you also have another massive resource, which is called the Grant Forward, which is full of grants and more than 9,000 sponsors in the US, which is mostly leveraging the funding from the US. So in general, so these are just few examples to give you an overview of the kind of databases that are private databases or external databases that are out there, where the institutes can actually subscribe to. And you get a lot of information about, especially in the Indian context, on the international funding schemes that are available there. Now, generally across these funding databases, the key features of these databases mostly includes the following. It provides funding information from various sources and which includes federal funding, government funding, corporate sources, private foundations, as well as other sources. Then they can also be customized in the sense that they give you curated comprehensive funding lists. Then there's dynamic search engine with powerful, useful, as well as advanced search features. There's information also on the previously awarded grants, which is very useful for applicants who are applying. Then there's built-in communication tools for disseminating funding information, for example, through newsletters, through calendars, sometimes even emails that can be sent out to targeted groups. And then it can also be customized to integrate any institutional internal funding opportunities. So these are all the kind of features that comes in with these funding databases. Now, these were the databases that was more subscription driven. Now, there are also few databases which have recently come up, which have open access global funding databases. One I would like to highlight is the Scientify Research. Scientify Research is an open curated research funding database. It's a new startup which has recently come up, and it offers a whole list of funding, and I think a very unique funding agencies have been included, especially the foundations which leverages to some specific niche areas of research in science and technology. Now, in addition to that, there is also a few other funding databases like the ECR Central. This is mainly a platform for early career researchers where you can find funding for research fellowships, travel grants, and also some other resources that would be useful for early career researchers, mostly at the postdoc level. It's an open resource, and basically even ECR Central, in fact, it allows you to add schemes to it. So it's like more like a public platform where people can actually add on the schemes and the database increases. So we can also use that. I would like to highlight the Scientify Research. So the Scientify Research, it is basically an open access, and it has like I was suggesting that like I was saying that it has unique search filters for eligibility criteria. So you can actually, based on your citizenship or your country-wise requirements, you can actually look out for these. Now, in addition to the kind of funding that they also have a few other additional research office solutions that they offer. I think few of them to highlight is that they tailor research funding to your needs. So you can actually collaborate with this particular database provider, and you can curate to the kind of funding requirements that your institute has. And they also offer services for organizing research funding webinars, where they themselves or sometimes also get resource persons to talk about specific schemes or specific foundations which are not very widely known, but where there is a lot of funding available. So these are all the different kinds of solutions that this particular database offers, and it's something that one can look out for. Now, in addition to these funding databases, which are more external funding databases, a lot of these funding agencies, they have their extensive, comprehensive funding databases, like, for example, the grants.gov, which includes mostly all the grant opportunities that are offered by the federal agencies in the US. Similarly, the NIH report also offers other information like access to reports, data, analysis of the NIH research activities, etc. And similarly, we also have other e-grant making websites like the Proposal Central, which also acts as a centralized funding database, which can be used for finding out funding, especially for life science as well as biomedical research sponsors. And then the European countries also, we have the EURASIS, which lists thousands of grants and fellowships, which are for more than almost 40 European countries and other regions in the world. So these are also agencies that you can look out for. Now, based on these, I think the potential models for scoping for funding in the Indian context includes institutional funding databases. I think I have categorized it into institutional funding databases as well as the external funding databases. In fact, you could curate an institutional funding database and add on to or collaborate with an external funding database, especially open access ones, to come up with schemes curate schemes for the international funding. And I think there's a requirement for a national comprehensive database of funding opportunities, especially for the Indian funding schemes. So I think to conclude my talk here, I would like to ponder on the following points. One is a lack of awareness of funding resources or tools which is currently there in our research ecosystem. And I think a few ways of figuring out or solving that problem is probably by organizing webinars or discussions with subscription-based external funding database providers as well as their end users. And also the research managers can collaborate with open funding database providers, which will help them in building their curated databases. And also to curate one's own institutional funding list, it has its advantages as well as disadvantages. Here, I feel that sometimes we are kind of duplicating our efforts because all of these several institutions are coming up with their curated lists. And probably if we could actually leverage the databases that are already existing, then probably research offices could reallocate that time to other priorities. And external funding databases can actually provide information on targeted funding and also as per institutional requirements. And I strongly believe that there is a requirement of a national comprehensive database of funding opportunities. For example, like I was showing the ISTI portal, that could be a great resource for science and technology research funding in India. And I think RM community can contribute to building such a database. And this kind of database could also be very, very useful for researchers who do not have research office support in their institutions. So I think with this, I would like to end my talk, and I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, all the presenters, the speakers for the wonderful presentations. And we are now open to questions. You can post your queries in the chat box. So before we get on to the questions, so it was a great presentation, Malini, and can I request all those speakers to turn on their videos, please? Thank you. I have a question for Malini. I know we have these funding databases where there are subscription based and kind open access. And when we are talking about the Indian funding agencies or their databases, the most of the researchers, especially those who belong to private research institutions, where some of their salaries may not be from the regular scheme, or they are not as a faculty or just researchers, and they need to search for grants where their salary can be allocated or budgeted in the proposal that they are writing. That becomes a very challenging for them in the Indian funding grants. So most of them look forward to international funding where their salary can be budgeted. So that is a challenge that I have seen. So what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that I completely agree, Geeta. First of all, thank you, IRMI, for giving me this opportunity to share this information, and I hope it was useful for all. So the question is basically very valid, and especially for private institutions. From all the researchers that I've interacted from the private institutions, I've heard this as a barrier, especially where they are expected to raise their own salaries. So I think, like you said, international funding, of course, is now. With the kind of funding that we are getting from the government sources or others, and with the kind of new regulations that are being coming up, I think there's a need for us to look out for other pots of funding. And there, I think, like you said, international funding is one good alternative where it provides you more flexibility. Of course, it's very, very competitive. I completely agree. But I think it's an opportunity also for us to even probably increase our in a way to increase the standard of research as well as it also provides a lot of flexibility with respect to, like you said, the salary part, not just the manpower, but in general, the kind of budget that is involved in an international funding scheme is very different. And a lot of the regulations that you find with the regular GOI funding is generally not there. So probably that's a good alternative source of funding.
Just a follow-up question to that. So, do these funding databases, are they searchable through, the kind of, mode of, funding or, things like that, whether they're, what kind of budget can be allocated to, whether it is the salary. So, in that kind of a search or, filtering is available for these databases?
Yeah, I think most of these databases, especially the international databases, I mean, India is yet to develop that kind of a database with that kind of searchable filters. But of course, the other international databases, both subscription-based as well as open access that are out there, they provide quite a lot customization, in the sense a lot of search filters. Even the ones, especially the subscription-based ones, provide a lot of flexibility, and they will customize and they can actually curate specific list that will cater to your needs, not just the research remit, but also many of these requirements. And in addition to that, even the open access databases that I have come across, even they provide a lot of filters with respect to the budget as well of what you're looking for. Whether it's not just about the remit or the citizenship or other eligibility criteria that we generally encounter, but it also helps you to based on what you're looking for, whether it's the manpower or equipment or what else. So I think it provides that kind of a flexibility, and it will be good, I think, to leverage such databases.
Thank you. And it was really very informative. And I think all of our audience can make use of these, findings and these websites or portals. And we have a question from Dr. Savita. If you can comment on the role that companies could play in centralizing funding opportunity information for India, like Pivot that you mentioned in the presentation.
Yeah. So Pivot is one of the widely used resources, databases across, which are basically like, it's a private based funding database, which is generally used by a lot of universities, especially across the US. So I think that's a very good model. And I mean, the subscription, one way of it is that we can subscribe to such databases, or the other way is probably to try and probably get industries or companies. Here I could actually cite an example here. Recently, I mean, during, I think we got connected through LinkedIn. There was one startup which is based in, they've just started there. It's a US MNC. It's called Polis Software. So who are actually trying to trying to find their feet in the Indian research ecosystem. So they have a lot of grant management solutions, and in fact, they are trying to build in some kind of a database like these. Where they think they want to bring in a lot of grant management solutions, and I think funding databases is also one of their calls. I think it's a good way. I don't know what's the strategy that we as research managers can use, but I think with the kind of connects or contacts that we have, we can try and build in to bring in some kind of such private funding database providers or to actually come into the Indian research ecosystem, and so that they can, I think there currently what I see as a gap is that many of these database providers, there are a lot of them, but they do not know that there is a requirement as such within the Indian ecosystem, because this whole field itself is coming up, and then this need is, of course, I think at the helm of all of it. In fact, even in Godwin's as well as Anand's talk, I saw that the researchers actually want a place where they can look out for funding. So I think that's a very important requirement at this stage. So I think as research managers, I think we may have to strategize some way of actually leveraging these databases, and private database providers could be one good alternative.
Yes, that is very true, and all of us are looking forward to these kinds of databases where we can leverage and help the researchers to search through these grants. I think Dr. Kavita had some questions. She was raising her hand. Anyway, we can go to the questions for Godwin. How long was this survey conducted and what all main points were covered in the survey? If you can just throw some light on that. And also I have an additional question to that. What was the background of the researchers? I mean, what type of research institute or university they belong to? If you can share some.
Thanks for the question. Pankaj, the survey was alive for 3 months. Initially, when we opened up the survey, we thought we would get enough responses within a month. However, we had to keep this open for 3 months because, as I mentioned in my presentation as well, this was during the time of COVID when too many surveys were out. And I think whatever responses we have collected was through personal contacts. I mean, and I was new in my fellowship as well that time, so didn't knew many research managers. That brings me to the next question about the background of these institutes. So we had sent invites to many institutes, but again, most of them being working from home, staff not being able to connect or fatigue about different surveys that were conducted during that time. We were only able to tap in on those institutes with whom we had contact and good rapport. So we tried to contact the research managers in those institutes, and research managers then sent an email on our behalf because I mean, COVID was a very bad time with regards to online surveys. Too many responses were being asked, so we didn't do well as expected. The time was 3 months. And what are the main points that were covered? The aim of this survey was basically to understand the experiences and needs of researchers. And we had done this so that the data that we collect helps us in setting up a research office. So we checked with researchers. We gave them option to respond based on their expertise, whether they had expertise in grant writing or they had expertise in grant management. Based on that, they got relevant questions. But basically what we covered is the support that they get from the institute, from where do they understand about new calls, what is the comfort level in communicating with the finance and the admin office in the organization. And we also asked them suggestions with regards to what support they would require from a research office.
Thank you, Godwin. I think Godwin and Anand, I don't know whether Anand is available. I can't see. Okay. So Madhuri has a question whether you would like to continue these surveys under different thematic areas with the RMAs each year, because there's a need for data with regards to Indian RM environment, because these surveys are very informative. If you could.
Sure, we are happy to conduct every year with all the RMAs. It gives more informative also. From this survey, we got a lot of information what we need to improve from our own institute itself. And it will be better when we have a suggestion from all the RMAs. It will be a pool of information where we can do better.
Yeah, Madhuri, yes. I take this as a very good suggestion and recommendation to further the work that we have already done through this survey. I have not thought about this personally, but now that you have brought it up, I'm sure we should think in those lines. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, that would be very helpful, in terms of, because you did the survey in the COVID pandemic season, and now that all people are back and working and back in the research field, so you can get more responses, and which will help in furthering the research management in India. So I think I don't see any questions after that. Yeah, there is a question for Anand. If I can take one more minute, Dr. Savita. So how the study outcomes have been implemented in your institute? If you can. Yeah.
Sure. Our survey was sent across the university for more than 5 weeks. But right now we just started and we stepped into the research management office. So So I couldn't able to come up with a fulfill answer for the outcomes, but we started getting many queries and multiple queries from all the faculty levels, even from clinicians also. So we just stepped in.
Yeah, I
Hopefully by
think
next year
once
I'll
you
be, yeah, next year I will have a better answer for this.
yeah once you establish the grants management office, maybe you would be able to
Sure,
study more on that. Yeah,
that's true.
thank you so much, and thank you, Dr. Savita, and now it is over to you. Thank you for this opportunity to chair this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Geeta. Thank you, all our panelists, and also to the audience for your interactions. We've heard some fantastic ideas today. I hope it's given food for thought to a lot of people. And I really do think that companies in India can step up to the challenge and probably come up with solutions. So we don't need to subscribe to Pivot or other databases. I think we have the ability to build these kinds of databases in India, and there is a lot of value in having a company do this because working with multiple clients, the company can build their knowledge pool, fine tune feedback, etc., all of that. And so then I think that would perhaps cause quite a shift in the role of pre-awards administrators. So rather than only doing the curation themselves, their role would also be to watch out for what such a database has to offer. So I think there are things to think about over there. Yeah. And Geeta, thank you so much. Lovely interacting with you here. Great to have you here as the chair of the session.
Thank
So
you.
on that note, we bring day 2 of the to a close.